Good morning. This morning I'm talking about personal transformation, and I'm basing my sermon on the Gospel of Thomas, who said somewhere, if you bring forth what is within you, what you bring forth will save you. And if you do not bring forth what is within you, what you do not bring forth will destroy you. I don't know if that's a pretty strong word, but it sure as heck will make you absolutely miserable. In Thomas's statement, if Thomas's statement isn't a shove toward transformation, I don't know what is. Jesus understood that there was much more to human beings than they realized. The people are more talented and smarter than they believe themselves to be, that they have more to give to the world than they are giving, and that if they took the time to mind themselves, look down here, and pull out all of the good things that are there that they probably don't know about or have forgotten about, that they would be happier. And the people in their lives would also be happier. And into the bargain, they might just find new ways to make a living. Now, transformation, according to Webster, means any extreme or radical change for the better. But let's look at the word radical. It's Greek in origin, and it means arising from or going to a source or a center. That's our insides here. This springtime, we are enjoying this wonderful beauty that we have around us here. The predominant color is green, but there's all sorts of other colors in there, and it's very lush. It's gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. What is the source of this gorgeousness? Well, the ground. Flowers and trees grow up from their source, okay? And you might say, okay, but where are the carrots and the radishes and the onions and the beets? We don't see them. We don't see them, no, we don't, because they grow down to their source rather than up from it. And to enjoy them, we need to dig down and pull them up. It sounds a lot to me like the same as bringing forth what is within you. As you may know, I have been in the career biz for more than 30 years. And what you may not know is that I was transformed from public school English teacher to the teacher of career change methods to adults. Did I have the degrees and the certificates required to do career counseling? No. Did I have the business background to run a nonprofit? No. I had something better. I had Southminster. Jim Peterson, pastor here for 30 years, wrote as part of his personal mission statement, I want to help people find themselves and relate better to themselves, others, the world, and to God. So when I and my pal Diana approached Jim with a proposal to start a nonprofit and help people find employment when they were struggling and out of work, Jim and the people of Southminster, of the Southminster community, made it happen. And the Employment Connection, or Career Makers, was birthed in 1982. Since that time, I have counseled hundreds of very capable and savvy people and taught classes on the stuff of career change, like interviewing, networking skills, and values assessment, and so on. And while everyone learned a lot in the classes, and most used their newly acquired skills to get a new job, there were also those who were transformed by the Career Makers process. They went deep inside and brought forth new and exciting things about themselves. They became open to new and exciting possibilities. They became radical in big and small ways. And I want to share some of those transformations with you now. At Career Makers, on the first day of every class, the attendees introduce themselves to their classmates. And on the last day of class, they expressed what was the most important thing that they had learned. Now, since the class lasted for 2 weeks, every day, Monday through Friday, from 9 to 4, with a whole lot of homework every night, these folks spent quite a bit of time together and got to know one another. And it was a pretty immersive process. So, here's some transformations from first days and last days. On the first day of one class, 2 women arrived together, and they're in their 30s. And in the introduction, one stood and introduced herself and said, "I'm Susie, and this is my partner. We are partners both in business and in life. And we are here in order to learn more about ourselves and also learn how to network better to grow our business." Good. Next, a man stood up and he said, "My name is Joe. I'm a Baptist minister, and I'm here to learn what possibilities other than the ministry might be available to me." The last day of class, Joe said to Susie and her partner, "I don't understand your lifestyle, and I don't know if I'll ever condone it. But what I want you to know is that I have come to love you." That's transformation. Okay, another example. This fellow came to class and he was rather aloof and detached. And on the last day of class, here's what he said about the first day as well. He said, "On the first day of introductions, it was clear to me that I had nothing in common with the rest of you. As of today, I want you to know that each of you will impact how I make decisions for the rest of my life." That's transformation. Here's the ever popular. It usually happens sometime during the second week of class, during a break. A fellow would come up to me and look around like he didn't want anybody to hear what he was going to say. And then he'd lean down, of course, and he would say, "I bet you don't know what my wife said to me last night." Well, at first I didn't know this when we started the business, but after I'd heard it a lot, I said, "I bet I do know what your wife said to you last night." He said, "What'd she say?" I said, "Your wife said to you, you know, you're right back to the guy I married in the first place." Aha, that's transformation. And notice, there's something about the transformation process is that it's contagious. a miserable person wakes up and gets who he or she is, begins to show up differently in life, thereby affecting everybody, and relationships are better. You like everybody better, and life is fun again. Okay, let's see. In fact, one day, my colleague, Ann Hudson, came in and reported that the previous evening she had been to an event, and she was having a conversation with somebody, and a woman intervened in the conversation and came right between Anne and the person that she was talking to, and she threw her arms around Anne and gave her a great big hug, and she sobbed here into her neck. She said, "Oh," she said, "thank you for giving me back my husband." I would say that her husband experienced a transformation at Career Makers, and that her life as a result had been greatly enhanced. Again, it's contagious. It's contagious. The people that you love and share your life with are happier too. Okay. Now, those are some things that happened there during class, all right? But what about the outcomes of some people? What about any radical transformations that may have occurred as far as work is concerned? Okay, there's myself that was transformed by having this wonderful place boost me and Diana towards the employment connection. Before that happened, however, when we moved here in 1974, we moved here on a corporate transfer. My husband was with Household Finance Corporation, which no longer exists, and he was a district manager with Household Finance, and he supervised about 8 offices or so, and they were in 3 states, of course. And when we moved here, I decided I would not teach high school English anymore because we had 2 children, 2.5 and 5.5. So we moved in, got settled, and Ron began working on a regular basis, doing his job. And what he would do was get up on Monday morning and leave and go visit these offices that he's responsible for, and he would then return on Friday about dinner time. And so I'm at home with the kids and so on, and they're not yet in school, so I'm trying to figure out preschool and all that kind of thing. But it wasn't a very nice way to live. It wasn't conducive to good family life or anything like that. And the longer we were living this, the more things got more nasty. It wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. In the meantime, I had found Southminster, and we began to come here. And Ron decided that he was going to get some career counseling, about which I knew precious little, believe me. And so I said, fine, go ahead, do it, wonderful. And away he went. And he met with a group on Saturday mornings. And he was with the group and meeting. And the first 3 meetings after that, I noticed that there was a little bit of a change there. He was more upbeat. He was smiling a little bit more. Okay, good. This is good. And away he went, Monday through Friday still, and then he'd Saturday go. Anyway, this was the way it was. About 4 weeks, 5 weeks into this career counseling, he came home one day and he was just like this. And he said, I got it. And I said, yes, what? He said, woodworking. He said, I'm going to go into woodworking. And I said, you can't do that. All you've ever done is household finance. You don't know about woodworking. And he said, I'm going to check it out. And I thought to myself, oh, good, he's going to check it out. He'll find out this ain't going to happen. All right? So away he went, and he checked it out, and he talked to let's say he talked to 7 or 8 woodworking shops. Find out what they did and how they did it and how it all worked to make a living and all this sort of thing. And I'm still going, oh, not going to happen. And I finally realized that he was serious about this and that I had a choice. I could either get on board or I could sit around still being miserable. And I thought, well, this is no-brainer. So I got on board. And would you know what? The next week, Ron goes off to wherever he was going. And I'm looking at a want ad in the paper, and it says, it was really small. And it said, woodworking shop for sale, owner retiring. Call Lowland, and here was a number. That was it. I thought, well, Ron's doing all this stuff. I might as well cut it off. I put it on the refrigerator. He came home. He said, what's this? And I told him what it was, and he said, oh, I guess I might as well check it out. And I said, yeah, you might as well check it out. And roughly 6 weeks later, we signed the papers to buy the woodworking shop. And life was changed. Ron was transformed. We all were much happier. And when Ron took over and he began to learn how to run this architectural millwork shop that turned out the kind of woodworking that came from an architectural plan, and when it was done, it was one of a kind. There was nothing else like it around, and it went off and was installed in a business. And Ron got to say, look, I did that. Once in a while, we'd be out with the kids, and we'd get off the road, and we'd look in at a U.S. bank like this, and Ron would say, see that big counter right there? Our shop did that. Oh, really? Yeah. Okay. Probably the best day of my life was, one of the best days of my life was when Ron went off to take over the woodworking shop. And he had to turn in his company car, which happened to be a brand new Chevy Monte Carlo. And I love cars, and it was a beauty, and I didn't want it to leave. But it was part of the deal. He took it and turned it in at Household Finance, and his boss gave him a ride out to the woodworking shop. And that day, Ron came home in the new company car. And it was about a 14-year-old Ford Econoline van that huffed into the driveway and kind of coughed and then went and Ron was sitting there driving it. He has a cigar. He's dressed in just jeans and something or other. Happy as a clam. There you go. That's radical. Okay, who else? Okay, Annie Chernakovic. Because of her last name, we called her Annie C. at Career Makers, came to us from Intel. And we did a lot of corporate work with Intel. So Annie came in, and she knew down here already she knew that using her PhD in mathematics at Intel was not her be-all and end-all. She's an artist. And she came into the class and she did it all and so on and so forth. And as a result, she went back to Intel and she said, I would like to talk about my going half-time so that I can get serious about my artwork. And they were not real happy about that, but they said yes. And so Annie did that. And she started a business. She was marketing her art. She was doing more art at home. And she was just really enjoying her life. And Ron and I went to her big show that she had in a lovely gallery in Cannon Beach. And one woman show, and it was spectacular, and Annie was in seventh heaven. And just fantastic. A third radical transformation, career change, is Jeannie C. Jeannie came to us as a certified public accountant, a CPA. It's interesting to me that these two numbers people are both women. And very smart, both of them, anyway. And Jeannie also had this here. She knew. She needed a kick in the pants. She needed support. She needed courage to actually do it, make the change. Because when she was a kid, she was just taken with flying airplanes. She said she used to get on her bike and ride out to where she could see them landing and taking off and all that sort of thing, and spend hours doing that. And she thought, oh gosh, it'd be great. But of course, girls don't grow up to be airline pilots, probably not CPAs either, but that seemed to be where she could make her best contribution. So anyway, she went off and got her accounting degree and then her CPA. And she worked for one of the big companies in the nation. I can't remember what it was. And she came to us and finally said, I would really like to be an airline pilot, and I'm going to take that seriously, and I'm going to check it out. And we said, yes. Okay, so away she went. Ultimately, she went out to Hillsborough Helicopter. This was before the landing, the airport was there, okay? And she got pilot's lessons. She took all pilot's lessons and stuff, and learned how to fly, not just helicopters, but other planes and so on. And as a result, she ended up as a pilot for Alaska Airline. There you go. Okay, one day she called us up and she said, I'd like to take you to lunch. And she said, meet me and my husband at Hillsborough Helicopter at 7 o'clock in the morning, and we will go to lunch in the San Juan Islands. She had her own plane by then as well. And so we flew to lunch in the San Juan Islands. And on the way back, she flew us over Mount St. Helens. And we flew around it at a lower level, and we could see the devastation that had occurred from the, explosion? What do you call it?
Volcano.
The what?
Volcano.
Yeah, that. Eruption, okay. It was fascinating to see it up close. Okay. And I will end with the last and most radical career transition, and that is the transition of Jesus of Nazareth, carpenter apprentice, to job title of Son of God, Messiah, who definitely brought forth what was within him and changed the world. And I would like to remind you of words he left us with. They are, you will do greater things than I. And I would add, but first, you've got to get radical. Get down there. Figure it out. Amen.